Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson. Here in the early morning hours of Monday, I always tell you guys Monday's a tough day for me. Shouldn't be as tough today, but it's been a difficult weekend at times. And before we get into that, we want to offer our thoughts and prayers to everybody out there really dealing with some very serious circumstances. And I tell you, it's one of those things too. I don't know how we can prepare better. That's the thing, that maybe there's some type of opportunity for some inventor out there or somebody involved in engineering. There's just so many things where we're vulnerable. We've seen that. And, the pictures from extreme northwest Mississippi are very disturbing. Obviously, we have a rival that lives in Oxford, Mississippi, but we wish no ill on those people. And I tell you, these are the kinds of things that make you grateful, because at the end of the day, we're not in charge. We're not. This is a reminder. We are not in charge of what happens. And in many respects, we are at the mercy of Mother Nature. But it's been a difficult circumstance for a lot of people. We lost power about midnight Saturday night and slept in the cold. Thankfully, I had somebody to snuggle with when so many others don't. But it wasn't a good day on Sunday. But I tell you, things ended up going okay for us. You wake up, you report your power outage in the middle of the night, that kind of stuff, and you wake up, man, there's nothing to do, and you worry a little bit about the roads. We had some people scheduled to float on Sunday. We reached out to most of them and said, hey, we don't think we're going to make it in today. Ultimately, we decided, hey, let's make it to the spa. Roads seem to be okay. And at least we can warm up, right? Maybe watch a little TV or something, and maybe even float. Well, we did that. Before we could get out of the driveway, though, there's limbs hanging on power lines. And so we were able to navigate around that. There were down power lines in the driveway. We had to kind of shimmy around that. But we made it down there, and I was so grateful. And I even posted this, man, so grateful that we had somewhere to go, because so many other people didn't. Obviously, some people are dealing with much worse circumstances than us. And so it ended up just kind of being a 24-hour inconvenience. And get to the spa. We had some people that added late because we didn't anticipate all of that, and ended up having some new floaters. But I floated and felt a lot better, got my core temperature back up. And just as we're getting ready to leave, the water goes out at the spa. Hadn't even started freezing yet. Kind of found out there was a water main that ruptured over off Blackjack. And then before the end of the day, they had that fixed, And so our problems are very small. We get home, power's up, already got the text. And I want to give a shout out to Brian and everybody at 4 County Electric. And man, I tell you, it's a job I don't think I'd ever want to do. And man, we take those people for granted, and then times of crisis come, and I'm so grateful for my little Adenton community. We all kind of look out for each other, and that's the thing I love about being from Mississippi, man. And not to say there's not good people everywhere, it just seems we have a higher percentage here. Man, it was no time on Saturday morning, and we had people removing trees from people's driveways for free. Guys that had tow trucks and people like that, people that work in the industry. It's like we just rallied around each other. And that says a lot about people, in times of crisis. I go back to Katrina. One of the things that I remember Haley Barber saying is, we kind of stand here battered and bloodied, but we're still standing. And that's kind of going to be the theme of today's top 10 list too. But I'm very, very grateful for everybody at 4 County Electric. And we got some neighbors that still don't have power yet. And those folks have worked basically without ceasing for almost 18 hours. They're taking a little bit of a break now, but they'll get you up and running. But it's one of those things, man, I've seen and heard so many stories about what's happening in Lafayette County. And one person shared with me there's an entire neighborhood up there that every single power pole and power line is down in an entire neighborhood. So that's not going to be a quick fix. And so those folks are our neighbors too. While we gather on opposite sidelines around Thanksgiving to settle a football game, that is secondary to this kind of stuff. And so to all the folks in Lafayette County and all the affected areas, our thoughts and prayers go out to you. And, that's one of the things Dana and I talked about, this the other day. We're empty nesters. And, I said, man, if this thing ends up being really bad in Starkville, if we have neighbors, we probably need to open our home up to them. Especially those that have children, give them the opportunity. And it's a little more difficult for us because we got dogs. And, of course, you guys know Maverick, my 100-pound German Shepherd. He not the best with newcomers, so we have to think about that. But times like these, we have to depend on each other. And so I hope that you all have somewhere warm to lay your head. And I was so incredibly grateful to get home. And the power was on. The dogs are great. And to walk into the house and feel that warm air on my face when so many other people around our state, around our country are suffering. And so throw that out there too, just because we love each and every one of you. And that's one of the reasons that I'm doing this show this early. I did not get a good night's rest, obviously, the night before. And then went to bed really early Sunday night. And so I woke up in the wee hours of the morning and I said, I'm just going to lay here and toss and turn. Let's go get something productive done. So here we are. So many of you are waking up to this show. So if you're one of those folks that can't get out and go today, I hope that maybe we can provide you some love and perhaps some inspiration, because we do love you. We absolutely do. We also love Bulldog Burger Company. And Bulldog Burger Company and the Eat With Us group have always been there when we've needed them, whether it's times of trouble or times of celebration. One of the Eat With Us restaurants is always there to mark the occasion. Bulldog Burger Company has become an institution. Began there on University Drive, then eventually expanded to Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, and then eventually Lake Harbor Drive in the Ridge and Flowwood area. You never know. Bulldog Burger Company could be coming to your town next. Who knows? 3 amazing locations. Have the spring rolls as your appetizer. They'll make you and everybody around you better looking. Yeah. We all need more of that. The more we age, the more spring rolls we need. You can get them as an entree if you want. Mike Nemeth, that's what he does. He gets the full spring roll order with fries. That's a lot of carbs for me, but that's how he sees life. And so that's how Mike has maintained this youthful exuberance, even though he's advanced in age. It's true. It's true. In addition to that, find your own favorites. My favorite is the Pimentology add bacon. And again, I don't even like pimento and cheese sandwiches, but I love that pimento and cheese spread at Bulldog Burger Company. I love the comeback burger too. I'm glad that's now a regular on the menu. Find your own favorites. You'll be glad you did. If you're a newbie to Bulldog Burger Company, we encourage you to just get the Bulldog. Just straight ahead rock and roll hamburger. You can't go wrong with that. That's what Jacob Bain gets every time we go. Every time we go. Get that chocolate shake. You can ride that ride home with a smile. Bulldog Burger Company, the place where people go to meet. M-E-A-T. All right, you may have heard Mississippi State product Charles Cross and the Seattle Seahawks headed to the Super Bowl. And many of you didn't get to watch that yesterday, and I am very sorry. We didn't get to watch it either. We had a lot going on. But Cross and the Seahawks take care of the LA Rams and Emmanuel Forbes. So no matter how it worked out, we were going to have a Bulldog playing in the Super Bowl. And as soon as I think Seattle Seahawks, I always think of KJ Wright. Guys, KJ Wright committed to us on Christmas Day. I got to break that story. He calls me and says, hey, I want to give the Bulldogs a Christmas present today. He committed on Christmas Day. It was incredible, absolutely incredible. And spent 10 years with the Seahawks. And I have not followed the Seahawks as much in my lifetime, because I'm a Steelers guy. But what's happened in Seattle with the 12s is incredible. 16-3 now. They win 31-27. Got a big stop late. Sam Darnold and those guys were phenomenal. And Charles Cross, man, what a great young man. And I'll be honest with you, when he first began to rise to prominence, I didn't think he was a 5-star. I thought he was certainly a 4-star. But eventually, he gets on campus. And I remember Marcus Johnson saying, the guys will tell you, Charles is just different, even as a younger guy. And people forget he redshirted because he had to add some mass, but he had the technique and he had the drive to be great. And now he's one of the top left tackles in all of football, which makes you think it ought to be easy for us to go get one, right? But that's a Mississippi product, and he committed to Florida State. We ended up flipping him late, and comes to Mississippi State, has a good career here, and then has made some major moves with Seattle. And give them a lot of credit, too. They recently signed him to a huge extension. And it's the thing, too, guys, when guys leave us, I don't really root for teams outside of the Steelers. I root for individuals. And that's the thing about, Charles Cross. If you've ever been around him, you know what a good guy he is. You know what a great family he comes from. Earlier this month, just over 3 weeks ago, he signed a 4-year contract extension worth $104.4 million, making him one of the highest paid tackles in the National Football League. So that's going to run through 2030, $75 million guaranteed. Charles Cross will never have to work again a day in his life when he's done playing football. And we need to get him hooked up with Charlie Winfield, right? And get some Bulldog excellence flowing through Charles Cross. But it's one of those things you think about, too. A lot of these guys begin to think about legacy and about their college home, and they need write-offs, so hopefully we can make something. But even if that doesn't happen, we're extremely happy for him. And look at this number here, too. It's actually a 5-year deal worth $121.96 million. Even better. But, pretty amazing stuff. And now Charles has a chance to go and win a Super Bowl. KJ won one with the Hawks, too. The Patriots, to me, it's so interesting how the Patriots, a lot of people expected them to kind of fall off after Tom Brady and Belichick and those guys left, and eventually they did a little bit, but they're back, right? They're back in the building and now competing for a a world championship. But it's kind of looking at the early odds here, between these two teams. Obviously, I will be rooting for Seattle and for Charles Cross just because of the fact that it helps Mississippi State's legacy to have a Bulldog win a Super Bowl. That's just one of the most important things for me. Everything that I look at is kind of in the big maroon bubble. That's the lens in which I live. How does Mississippi State benefit from this game? Well, we would benefit with the Seahawks winning and Charles Cross walking across the field with a Super Bowl trophy. The Seahawks favored by 5 points in this game in the early odds. The game will be played February the 8th, so there'll be no real football played this weekend. And then in Levi's Stadium out in Santa Clara, California, which will make it easier for KJ Wright to get there because he's working with the Niners, defensive quality control. But 5:30 kick, Sunday, February 8th. So all of that is exciting stuff. We love the fact that young people come to Mississippi State chasing a dream, and then that dream is realized. Along those lines, too, over the course of the weekend, we have reached out to a couple of the 2027 commitments. We've been so portal heavy, as you guys know. That's what you want to read about. And so now we kind of transition into more coverage of the 2027 class. We'll try to catch up with all these recent offers, which is a bigger challenge sometimes than you think. But try to establish a bit of a relationship so when we need scoop from them later, we can get it. But I like what we have done so far. We actually lost a commitment over the weekend. Gunnar Galantine, the punter from Petal, decommits, says something about uncertainty. It makes me think that maybe it wasn't totally his decision. But either way, very talented young man. Not exactly sure of all the circumstances behind that, but it kind of is what it is. But looking ahead at 27, you have 3 commitments right now, and you can read up on the recent ones. We've had updates on all 3 in the last week, including the new one, Caleb Unger, who is locked in to be a center. He is an interior guy at Madison Ridgeland Academy, so we look forward to seeing him play later this year. But Unger's a guy we have felt pretty good about from the beginning. But at 6'2", 6'3", he is going to be a center. And I'm told he is a very intelligent young man, and you have to be to play center in the Southeastern Conference because you got to pick up all these checks. And then there's Brandon Allen out of Westlake High School. If that sounds familiar, that's where Cameron Newton played. I think Brandon Allen's rating is not commensurate with his offer sheet or his ability. He is listed as a corner. He could play safety, but he is being recruited at a corner. And he says that he hears from Corey Bell pretty much every day. I know you like to hear that. And Corey Bell, obviously, with a really good portal class, did a really good job kind of getting his stuff together pretty early. We didn't have to sweat a lot out with him. But you can read the latest on Brandon Allen at genespage.com. I wrote that this morning before recording this show. So that's up for all of you that have access to the website. And you certainly should if you don't already. That's an important aspect of life, right? Just kind of making things better, giving you more information about your Bulldogs. So that's something to think about. And yesterday, too, we also had an update on Hudson Fuqua, a safety prospect out of Murfreesboro, Riverdale High School up there. And hopefully we'll get a chance to go see him, too. We try to coordinate our high school coverage around our Mississippi State stuff so we can kind of make use of, if we have to make the trip, we want to make sure that we get to see a recruit along the way. So hopefully we'll get a chance to get out and see these guys. But 3 commitments, and again, we've updated all of them within the last week. Even updated Galantine after his junior day visit. Now he's no longer part of the class. Now, while you were worried about the weather this weekend too, Mississippi State gave us the information about who all has cleared or has been cleared to enroll. And so far, the Bulldogs have welcomed 43 new Bulldogs to class for the spring semester. Now, running those down for you real quickly, 20 from the high school and junior college ranks. Some of these guys you've seen already in university social media postings and things of that nature. Braylon Womack out of Hartfield Academy, consensus 5-star player. 247's got him ranked a little bit lower than everybody else, which I don't know that I agree with. Zayon Cotton is on campus. Tico Crittenton, again, a guy that I don't know that we talk enough about. Glad to have him. Micah Nickerson is in. J.T. Taylor, Jaden Taylor. You can read at genespage.com Neil Stopchinski's stop report on JT. And for those of you that don't remember Neil worked on the staff at Northwestern with Pat Fitzgerald and then joined Dan Mullen's staff at Mississippi State. And so Neil was kind of the straw that stirred the drink in the evaluation process. He was the guy that broke down film that really helped Dan Mullen find some of these diamonds in the rough. And he writes those scouting reports for us. That's a benefit of being a member of our website. It's not just some random clown. This is a guy that's worked at the Power 4 level and currently working for Catapult and working part-time for us. But I think you'll enjoy him kind of breaking those things down. And if you're a newer member to genespage.com, you can just go to the profile of these guys and scroll down to your earlier stories and read what Neil's had to say about these guys. It always makes me feel better, too, because I don't prime the pump. I don't tell Neil what I think about guys. I like to talk about it after the fact because I don't want to make him think that he needs to write something to make me feel good. Not that he would. Kemeon Henderson. If you have not watched Kemeon Henderson's state championship film, I'd encourage you to do so. Wide receiver out of Carthage, was a late addition to the class, 6'3", 190. Probably going to be an X, but man, you talk about a guy that can make plays down the field. He can elevate. This is a great addition. I don't care what his ranking is. Leon Knoll, Jr., offensive lineman from Edna Carr, probably needs a red shirt, kind of fill out the frame a little bit. He's a former basketball guy, runs about 6'5", 260. So, yeah, he's got to get up to around 300 pounds before he can be game ready. And we talked about Cameron Brown recently, too, about one of the longest-standing commitments in the class. And him and J.J. Hill made it happen. Dalton Toothman, obviously here, Jaden Ross, Colby Barrett, safety out of Baylor School. Brody McCorder, your quarterback, obviously is here. Luke Hutchinson, the tight end. Caleb Morris, a former Alabama All-Star from Mary Montgomery High School. One of the first offers in the state of Alabama for Mississippi State for the 2026 class. He commits in the summer, gets offers from Alabama and Auburn, sticks with State. Cooper Crosby, obviously a guy that kind of made himself as a senior. Man, what a great deal that is for State to get arguably the two best running backs in the state last year. And Demarius Yates ends up at Ole Miss, a good back in his own respect. A couple JUCO guys, Matt Mayfield and Dre Riley, are here. I think Dre's going to help us more than people realize. Adam Land had the ACL injury. He'll rehab this year. And then Kyle Rushing, of course, out of Park Lane, comes to us as a PWO. But from a great family, Ron Rushing, that whole family does a great job. And so now Coach gets to be a fan for a while and watch his kid play college ball. How cool is that? Now that leaves us 10 of the high school / junior college signees that are left to report. They just weren't early grads, right? And so running those down for you, Chris Addison, a guy that we added on signing day. Zion Crumpton, another Alabama All-Star. Jaden Creation, a guy that we knew would be a May grad, might actually be second session of summer school. And Tavius Watts out of Carver High School in Columbus. Camden Capehart obviously will chase another state championship. And then there's Dylan Steen from St. Thomas Aquinas, Terrell Johnson Jr. from Holmes County, Davin Young, Theodore, Kyson Shepard, we talked about him, Hayden Chambers. And then all the transfers, with the exception of Jaden Rashada, cleared to come in. We touched on some of this on Saturday, but the reality of this, we talk about upgrading and flipping rosters. It's a big part of it. And getting 43 new players in for spring practice gives you a great opportunity. You know, looking back at last year's transfer class, which was a huge transfer class, you guys, we had 34 transfer ins. Yeah, think about that for a second. 34. Now, going back to year one under Coach Jeff Lebby, we knew we had to flip the roster quickly. Probably overestimated our ability just a little bit. But you go back and look at this. We had 20 transfers that year. And I want to run these down for you because, and one of these is misclassified. Jamil Burrows actually was at a walk-on last year. So we basically added 19 transfers that first year under Lebby. Montrell Miller did nothing. Trent Hudson did nothing. Devin Booth gave us 2 good years. Diego Brumfield gave us a couple pretty good years. Stone Blanton gave us 1 good year. Blake Shapen, you know what he's done. Jacoby Jackson gave us a couple good years. Wilkie Denied transferred in and didn't even make it past the spring. Kevin Coleman gave us a year. Then we had Zachary Haynes, the punter, come in and didn't stay. Kelly Akari was banged up his whole time here. Marlon Martinez did play for us and contributed. Suleiman Paca, the same thing. Trey Wright never did anything. He was hurt almost the entire time he was here. And again, there were some practice reports out there that just absolutely mischaracterized this young man's ability, which wasn't fair to him. Cam Ball hung around for a while, played some snaps for us. Justin Ball obviously had 1 good year. McKellen Pounders obviously comes in, plays a year, just didn't work out. Ethan Miner, we liked him a lot. And then Kendrick Bingley Jones comes in and gives us a couple years, obviously redshirted in 24 due to the injury. And then is now headed to Alabama, which is interesting. In addition to that, I wanted to go back to this first class, okay, this first high school class. And maybe this is something we write about, this 2024 class that Jeff Lebby signed, just to kind of give you an idea of kind of how things have maybe changed, in recruiting. All right, Mario Craver obviously spends 1 year at Mississippi State, transfers out, has a big year at A&M. Jimothy Lewis hangs around for a while. Now he's transferred out to Cal. Stonka Burnside transfers to Memphis. J.J. Harrell obviously ends up transferring to Arkansas State, then going to JUCO. So you had 4 4-stars in that class. None of those 4 are still with the program. Michael Van Buren, well documented, right? Now at his 3rd school in 3 years. Now, one of the top-rated returners, Sanfrisco McGee, a guy that had a big touchdown catch in the bowl game against Wake Forest. We think Frisco is a guy next year that is ready to blossom. Terrence Hibbler Jr. transferred out this year. TJ Lockhart is still with us. Needed to spend some time in the weight room to kind of trim up and get a little bit stronger. We're hoping that he challenges for a spot on the 2 deep at one of the guard positions. Fat Forrest, formerly Fat Clark, of course, announced he was going to go in the portal and then quickly changed his mind there. Josiah Knight transferred out last year. Xavier Gayton still with us, and we're expecting him to be RB2 next year. Ja'Cory Whitehead was a guy that came in basically his developmental piece. He rolled out. Tyler Woodard was dismissed from the team mid-year. He's transferred to Coastal Carolina. Brandon Jennings came in. And you remember when he signed, everybody's like, this kid will never stay. He's never stayed anywhere. He gave us 2 good years at Mississippi State. Boogie Johnson out of Hooks, Texas is another guy that we're hoping will kind of blossom for us. Ricky Johnson now is transferred to Utah. Brylan Lanier gave us a couple good years. He did. His best year, obviously, this year. But very happy to have Brylo. Ashawn Shepard, of course, is now transferred to Cal. Johnny Daniels is still in the portal. Corey Clark has transferred out. Luke Work transferred to Missouri. Kyle McClendon is transferred to Washington. Elijah Canning is transferred to Kansas. Marcus Ross, of course, transferred last year. Cyrus Reyes now going to Kentucky. So you start running this whole thing back here, and you start looking at this class and look at the attrition that is taking place here. It is absolutely incredible. Again, you get Brylan Lanier for the balance of his career. You get Brandon Jennings for the balance of his career. You still got Xavier Gayton. You still got Fat Clark and TJ. And you still got Frisco. So basically, there are 6 players from that 25 that kind of hung in there with you. Now, some of it was not their choice. Some of it was our choice. But there are others, of course, that we hope would kind of hang around. But guys, there are only 4 players left from that high school and junior college class from Jeff Lebby's first signing class. Let that sink in for a second, right? And, we want to get off the portal roller coaster as best we can. We're going to have to work the portal every year to upgrade our talent and fill holes and things like that. But one of the things that we've got to do a good job of is proper evaluation and development, and putting guys in a situation where they kind of hang in here with you. Now, let's jump over to this 25 class. We won't work through the transfers because some of those guys are going too. And I guess maybe we will. But let's start with the high school stuff here. There were 29 signees that enrolled, and obviously we made some adjustments late. But to 29 high school and junior college guys joined the program signing day December 25 or December 24. So part of the 25 class. Obviously, Camario, still with you. Tyshawn Willis, redshirted this year, still with you. We still got high hopes for him. Tyler Lockhart played well as a freshman. Kyle Johnson is still with you. Ferzel Shepard processed out. Tony Mitchell essentially processed out, transfers to Ole Miss. Diamond Jackson, gone. Spencer Dolan still with us. A.J. Rice still with us. Grayson Harris, a guy we expect to make a jump next year. Joseph Skipworth, expected for him to play a good bit this year. A.J. Lewis didn't even finish the year with us. Jerron Johnson ended up having to go to JUCO. We elect not to bring him back. Saquon Miles, redshirted this year. We're hoping he does some things. Diesel Moy, a guy that many people panned, and we got good value out of him. Still got a year left to go with him. LoJack went home during open date and never came back. Still hadn't committed anywhere. Sekou Smith, the guy that redshirted, we expect good things from him. Isaiah Bull Mitchell, hopefully he'll take a jump this year too. LaKendrick James redshirted last year. He still has 2 years to play. Amaka Aloy processed out. Mason Clinton didn't even survive the spring, and now he's at Florida with about $400,000. Judge Jefferson was banged up last year. Still got 2 years to play. Colin Wilson redshirted last year. We still like him. Jakeem Shumpert-Perkins, another guy that redshirted, offensive lineman. Expecting him to provide some depth this year. Jabri Stewart, redshirted last year as a JUCO guy. Braden Turnage still with us, redshirted. Same thing for Matthew LaFoe. Montrell Chapman leaves, and then Nathan Tice. So of those guys, was it 9 guys that left? So you got 20 of those guys left. So maybe things are cresting a little bit, but we got 12 months to kind of figure that out. And real quick, looking back at the transfers from that year, and we tracked their stats all year. DK Magruder was a late add, did nothing for us in the portal, not much going on. Colin Coates was a late add, too, out of Charlotte. Tore his ACL in spring practice, expected back. Zach Owens obviously transferred in and now transferred out, wanted to stay. Javen James, of course, transfers to Alabama, and the fact that they're talking about playing him at tackle, I think it's a good thing for Mississippi State. Wish the kid the best, but man, Brennan Smith was hurt all year, ends up transferring out, right? So it's crazy to think about that. Ethan Myers was a deep snapper, and didn't really factor in. Max Reese transfers out to North Texas. Sam West is still with us. Blake Steen was injured the first game of the year, so he'll be back. Jaquan Bolden is transferred to Jackson State. Trevor Mayberry's exhausted his eligibility. Anthony Evans obviously back for another year. Aiden Williams back for another year. Marcus Allen is transferred out. Cam Thompson is transferred out. Dwight Lewis has exhausted his eligibility despite his, protest to the contrary. Will Whitson, of course, gets banged up. He's back. Ray Thomas exhausted his eligibility. DJ Reed will be back. Fluff will be back. Carson Lee was processed out in the spring. Malik Sila's out of eligibility. Kobe Keenum transfers out. Bledsoe is back. Jalen Smith is back. Gillette is back. Croman Hawk is out. Jesse Rommel was transferred out in the spring. Jerron Glover did nothing, transferred out. Brennan Thompson has exhausted his eligibility, as is Nave Sanders. Same for Red Hibbler. Jerron Manning and Javen Williams transfers out. So of those transfers, and there was so many of those one-year guys, you still got about a dozen, I guess 11 of those guys expected back. And so I think maybe, just based on where we are, maybe the 2025 class shows us that maybe things are starting to kind of trend more towards a little more roster stability, because we retained so many good players from the roster this year. So I share that with you just because of the fact there are things at times that happen kind of behind the scenes that doesn't make headlines. Roster retention is a big part of that, and you got to purge the roster every now and again. And I think we had to do more of that in that first year just because of the fact everybody hit the ground, and you just basically had to go grab bodies. And then many of those guys didn't last a year with you, And so maybe, just maybe, we're starting to find a stabilization of the Bulldog roster. And I think with the pieces that we brought in this year, and I do think it is our best portal class. And you could say, but Steve, last year we signed Anthony Evans and Brennan Thompson. We did, but you had no clue they were going to do what they did. There was no evidence to support that. Just like many of the players this year have a ton of potential, but not a ton of production. So I rolled that out to you just to tell you, I think you're going to have a much better football team next year. And I think it's going to reflect in the record. I think that's important to understand, too. I think finally, in year 3, I think we have positioned ourselves that we will consistently be able to compete on the SEC level. And again, you look back last year, we had 3 games that we let get away from us late against teams that, when you factor the talent differential, we shouldn't have even been on the field with them. So schematically, there were some things that worked well for us. Now we've upgraded on defense, and let's be honest. And I think Coleman Hutzler is a really great guy. If you guys had a chance to have a beer with him and eat some wings and talk football, you would absolutely love that guy. You would. But my concern about him from the beginning was, man, you can't run Alabama schemes without Alabama talent and expect to get Alabama results. And I think that's what we did. And that first year, a lot of people say, well, we should have done it last year. I don't know that anybody really would have that knew Coleman Hutzler and knew the roster deficiencies that we had. I mean, the fact that we had to go take a tight end to go play scout team defensive end says a lot about the lack of depth we had in 2024. And so to be fair, you go out, you spend some money, you add some players, and yeah, things got better But in the end, I think schematically, it was never going to work. I don't know that we were ever going to recruit at the level that we could run those kind of read and react schemes and be successful as a defense. And by the end of October, people had kind of figured Mississippi State out, and we were kind of powerless to stop it. I think Zach Arnett, with more talent and a more attacking style defense, will change the trajectory, I think, a little bit. We'll only add to it. We go from 2 to 5, obviously. But I think you're going to see, like I go back and think about, ending that Texas game. Zach Arnett would have got it done. I firmly believe that. I really, really do. I think Zach finds a way to get that thing done. You go back Tennessee game went overtime. I think he finds a way to get that thing done. I don't. You telling me Zach Arnett up 17 in the fourth quarter with 12 minutes to go can't give me at least a stop? Yeah, he would have got it done. And I think, again, if we go 6-6 this year, your feelings about football are completely different. And I think the defense is going to be much improved because schematically we're going to be a handful to deal with, and we've upgraded our athleticism and our talent on defense. And so as a result, I think there's going to be more stops and obviously more turns for the offense. And there were times last year it just felt like we almost had to score every time we had the football to have a chance to win. I just don't think that's going to be the case moving forward. All right, time for our Close with Blair Player of the Day, brought to you by Blair Chandler at Close with Blair. He is a Bulldog through and through, season ticket holder in multiple sports, has a place in Starkville, rides the wave of Bulldog emotion just like you do. 25 years of experience in the mortgage industry. He can get you approved when so many others can't, because he knows how to navigate through the labyrinth of underwriting, knows how to construct loans to give you the best chance of approval. Call him today, 601-500-2344. You can call or text. It's his personal cell. Save it in your phone as Mortgage Guy. You may not remember the name, but you will remember the need, and you never know when you may need Blair's services. Life may throw you a curveball. Maybe you're looking to upgrade. Maybe you've got a new addition in the family. Maybe you need to downsize. There's a lot of things that can happen in life that may want you to choose another living facility, or maybe you need that game day condo. So what are you looking for? Your first home, your next home, or your retirement home? Blair Chandler, the only name to know in mortgage loan origination. Be sure to hit him up today, closewithblair.com. Our Close with Blair players of the day are going to be our linemen around the state working through life-threatening conditions to ensure that we have a higher quality of life. I can't even begin to imagine the grueling conditions they're having to work in. And every snap, crackle, and pop out there is not Rice Krispies. It's another tree limb falling in your direction. It's not a job that I would expect to ever have to do. And some people choose this life, and they are a huge part of our community. They deserve some recognition, especially at times like these. And I can only begin to imagine how many people from around the country will convene in northern Mississippi to help restore life and restore power up there. So a shout out to those folks out there working some incredible hours, doing an incredibly important job under some very difficult circumstances. Your Close with Blair Player of the Day, all those people working those power lines to try to get people some heat. Time for today's Top 10 list is always brought to you by Kalido Guitars. That's Calido Guitars.com. Kalido Guitars is another company that is owned and operated by Mississippi State folks. Daniel, the grandfather of guitars at Kalido Guitars, got his grandsons working for him. They're guitar players too. They know what we want, right? Even those of us that may be novices or intermediate guitar players, maybe part of your development would be improved by having a better guitar. Yeah. I can promise you when you get a new one, you're going to want to play a lot longer. You are. Matter of fact, I plan to play some today. Hope that you'll have the opportunity as well. I have a guitar from Kalido Guitars that I'm very, very happy with, a Steve Vai signature model. You can find the same one that I enjoy and the same one that Steve Vai plays on stage these days, that beautiful white pearl guitar with the monkey grip. If you know the Steve Vai collection, you know exactly the one I'm talking about. And maybe you're not a Steve Vai guy. You should be, but maybe you're not. Maybe you're a banjo person. Maybe you're a violin person. If you're looking for stringed instruments, you can find them at Kalito Guitars. Stop by and see their expansive showroom down in Lake Jackson, Texas, next time you're in the greater Houston area. I hope to be able to do that when we go down to play baseball. We'll see how things work out. Sometimes the schedule doesn't work out the way I hope it does, but I hope that's the case. But they're going to give you some incentive to do business with them, whether you do it in person, over the phone, or online. Promo code BSR. We wanted to keep it simple for all of you. That entitles you to the Ken Folks discount. That's 10% off the everyday low price. That also gives you no sales tax unless you live in the great state of Texas, no shipping cost, and they make a 5% donation to the Bulldog Excellence Fund. It's a win-win-win. You win, they win, and of course Mississippi State wins, and when Mississippi State wins, we all win, right? So make Kalito Guitars your one-stop shop for intermediate guitars, beginner guitars, or professional grade guitars, all the accessories you could need. I've got a gig bag, a guitar stand, everything that I need to be a better player except more practice time, right? They can help you with everything else. Be sure and check them out today, KalitoGuitars.com. All right, a lot of guitar on our list today. I wanted to do something today that was a little more inspirational. I get those requests a lot. People say, Steve, give me some songs that you find inspiration in, or songs that motivate you. Many of these songs do, but as I began to think about this and kind of put this thing together, I thought about the word rise, right? And when you think about our current conditions right now in the great state of Mississippi, we're going to have to kind of rise to the occasion. We're going to have to kind of rise from the ashes. And there's a lot of that out there. The legend of the Phoenix, right? One of the things that I've learned about life is you have to have adversity. Adversity builds character. You have to have a relationship with danger. There's a lot of people out there sometimes that don't fully appreciate life until life is negatively affected. And I'm very grateful. Very, very grateful for who and what I have in my life. But there have been times that I have had to rise and fight in order to keep them and to keep that. And that may be your case too. I would suggest that most of these songs, for those of you that work out, you like a workout playlist, or maybe you need a motivational playlist, this may be the list that gives you some additions, that gives you a little motivation in the gym, or when you're running, or when you're just kind of riding around and you need to feel better about life. Some of these songs have had an incredible impact on me, so I want to share them with you because I love you. Even if nobody else has told you today, I love you. Number 10, great band called Rise Against. Kind of got a little bit of a punk sound to it. The vocal's not necessarily operatic. It's not necessarily grungy and gritty, but it's very different. And it kind of has a punk feel to it. It's a band called Rise Against. We're going to go with their great track, Re-Education Through Labor, because the reality of it is you got to work for everything in life. I had somebody ask me this week, I'm going to write about this later on Facebook, but I had somebody ask me, Steve, why do you think your children are such high achievers? That's a great question. And I think a lot of it's because of the behavior that I modeled for them, but I've taught them the value of work. I've taught them that you're never going to get anywhere in life without work. You're not going to sit around and wait to be discovered. Simple as that. You got to get out and grind. And I think this song kind of typifies that line of thinking, re-education through labor. Because a lot of people think, I'm just going to thrive. This doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way, right? You thrive through effort, right? And I love the phrase revenge through thriving, right? The old saying out there, living well is the best revenge. Well, you want to live well, you got to work hard. Number 9, a band that I saw with Nothing More on the Jenny tour. It's a band called Wilson. I didn't know a lot about them. I absolutely love this track, though. It's Right to Rise. Right to Rise. We had this on the show years ago, but you've got the right to rise. And I think a lot of that is just kind of motivation, understanding that we kind of control our destiny in that respect. Number 8, a band that I absolutely love. And this song is about 25 years old. It's a bit of a deeper cut, probably on an album that you don't know quite as well. But it's the song Rise from The Cult. And those of you that know me understand that my youngest son, Ian, is named after Ian Astbury from the cult. He recently hit me up and said, Dad, who am I named after again? Told him. And I told him the story too. You ever Googled yourself? You may be alarmed to note exactly how much of your private information and data is out there for anybody to access. Whether it be your phone number, your home address, or details about your family. It could be your kids' names, their ages. Whether you agree to this disclosure or not. And that's because data brokers are collecting and selling your information to marketers, scammers, and basically anyone willing to pay. It's the reason robocallers know your name, and while ads seem to follow you on every digital platform out there. Well, Aura fights back for you. They remove your personal data from broker sites and keep it off. Aura also alerts you fast if your information shows up in a data breach or on the dark web. But Aura is more than just data broker removal. It's a full digital security suite that protects every part of your life online. Aura gives you a VPN to stay private, antivirus to block threats, a password manager to keep all your logins safe, and they even give you spam call protection to cut off those stupid scammers. Aura also scans the dark web regularly for your most sensitive information like your social security number, bank logins, passwords, and they will notify you instantly if you are somehow exposed. If your identity is ever stolen, you're backed up by up to $5 million in insurance and 24/7 U.S.-based fraud support to help you recover everything quickly. Other services charge about the same, but they only cover one or two areas. With Aura, you get it all. Data broker removal, credit and identity monitoring, device protection, and fraud support, all with one simple app. Aura removes what is already exposed, protects what isn't, and puts you back in control. Right now, you can try Aura free for 14 days when you visit aura.com/remove. That gives them plenty of time to go ahead and start protecting your data. They can remove your personal information from data broker sites. Sign up today at aura.com/remove and get the peace of mind that your privacy, identity, and finances are all safeguarded. That's Aura, AURA.com/remove. Certain terms and conditions apply. Be sure and check it out today at aura.com. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. A lot of people are going to be talking about a new year means a new you. Well, that's not necessarily the case. How about a less burden you? Therapy can help more easily identify what weighs you down and holds you back by offering a very unbiased perspective to better understand your relationships, your motivations, and your emotions. I'm a person that absolutely believes in therapy. I think everybody needs someone they can tell everything to. Perhaps you're in that situation too. We're going to ask you to give our friends at BetterHelp an opportunity to help you deal with the triggers in life and the hang-ups, the heartbreaks. BetterHelp makes it easy to get matched online with a qualified therapist. Sign up today and get 10% off at betterhelp.com. That's better, HELP.com. It doesn't have to be this way. It could be a better version of yourself and a better version of life. Visit betterhelp.com today. Dana's grandfather on her mother's side was a guy named John Victor Johnson. And he was raised in Philadelphia, Mississippi on the Indian reservation. And I've done some research, for years and years and years. We were told that he was a Choctaw Indian, which didn't really, if you've met my wife, she's blonde-haired and blue-eyed with those high cheekbones. And they were very proud to claim some Choctaw heritage. But during my research, we have not found much to confirm that Grandpa Johnson was actually a Choctaw. What I believe to be the case, we have pictures of him on the reservation, so we know he grew up there. But I believe he was abandoned there. That's what I believe. And so I don't think that my children have any Choctaw in them. But I know this, that he is a guy, obviously, that did some amazing things with his life. His name was, again, John Victor Johnson, and fought Vietnam, Korea, and World War II. And probably would have signed up again for Desert Storm if they'd let him. He's an American war hero. And so we were going to name Ian Hunter Robertson. and you can kind of do your own math there. But when Grandpa Johnson died, because Ian is Scottish for John, and we are descendants from Scotland, we decided to name him Ian Victor Robertson after John Victor Johnson. So a little family history there. Number 7, one of my favorite bands. I won't say this song is a clunker. I like the song, but it never made an actual Soundgarden album. It was on the Avengers soundtrack, and it's Live to Rise. And of course, everything that Chris Cornell did was very haunting as a vocal. I think you'll enjoy this track, even though it's probably one you're not quite as familiar with. Number 6, and you remember our great run to number 1 in 2014. Derek Cody, of course, was doing a lot of our social media stuff, and he used a great track that turned a lot of people on to a band that maybe needed some fans at the time. It's the great band Muse, and the song is Uprising, right? We'll let our flag unfurl. I love that track. It will take many of you back to a time about a dozen years ago when some great things were happening in Mississippi State football. All right, number 5, this is a contemporary Christian band that has crossed over and had a lot of hits on Sirius XM Octane. It's a couple of couples, right? It's the band Skillet, and the track is Rise. And again, it's one of those songs, too, that's just supposed to be one of empowerment. If you don't know Skillet, you should. Number 4, one of my favorite songs of the last 10 years. And I don't know that it had the commercial success that it probably should. And I'm going to give you some lyrics about this from this one, too. But it's a band we've met at Rocklahoma. Thanks, Mark. But it's a band called I Prevail. And I remember several years ago, they had a bus fire, and everybody freaked out, and the guys were like, hey, we're good, and everybody wanted to cash out them money and that kind of stuff so they could have food and buy some gear. They goes, hey, we're covered, insurance companies handle everything, but guys, go out and pre-order our new album. I did, and this track was on it, and it's I Prevail's Rise Above It. I absolutely love it. There's a rap part on there too that's super cool, but one of the lyrics here that I love, absolutely love. I count my enemies like trophies. I wear my scars so they can show me now. I've got nothing left to prove. So when I look at you, all I see are trophies. I'm not afraid to put it all on the line like it runs through my veins. I will stop at nothing because I was made to rise above it. That's one of those songs that I draw a lot of inspiration from, right? And I share that with you on a more personal note because I count all of that as gain, right? Like when people, nobody talks trash about Vanderbilt football, right? Now, maybe the last couple of years they have because they've had some success. But historically, nobody talks trash about Vanderbilt. They talk trash about Alabama, talk trash about OSU because you got a lot of haters out there that are jealous. And so anybody that's ever stood for anything is going to have critics. And you've got to be thick-skinned enough to deal with that, right? And I don't handle it perfectly every single time. But this is one of those songs, too, that maybe when I'm maybe not in the best of moods, I can put it on and it reminds me kind of who I am. All right, number 3, it's P. Roach. Man, we love Papa Roach on this show. We do. Had a chance to see them multiple times and never met Jacoby Shaddix, but I'd like to, and Jerry Horton, that are an incredible guitar player. Jacoby obviously is in recovery now, and he took an acronym from recovery and kind of flipped it a little bit. And so in AA, we have an acronym for fear. And it said it used to stand for F, everything and run, right? And you can kind of fill in the blanks there. And then it became face everything and recover. Well, Jacoby took it and called it face everything and rise. And that's the thing we talk about sometimes on the show is you have to learn how to cope. You've got to get some coping skills. Because if you keep running from everything, then everything keeps chasing you. You got to face stuff and put it behind you once and for all. That's mentally, physically, emotionally. You can't just live in a state of denial and expect things to get better. That's just not how life works. Those aren't my rules. It's just nature's rules, right? You've got to deal with it sooner or later, or it'll consistently haunt you. And that's kind of what that song kind of surmises. Number 2, another band that I saw at Rocklahoma and I saw at the amphitheater down in Brandon. I've seen them, and I've never seen a bad show from the rock bands either. It is so great. I got a drumstick hanging in my music room. I love the track Rise Above This. I love it, man. I do. I absolutely love that song. And it reminds me, even though that I'm in recovery, and I tell people this all the time, the worst things that happened to me in my life happened to me after I got clean and sober. And people say, Steve, well, you went to jail. And you were 146 pounds. When you went to rehab, you were on an IV drip for 3 days. They were going to put you in ICU because your body was shutting down. You had to go to rehab, right? And so how can you sit here and tell me that all these bad things happened? Well, they did. They did. The worst things that happened to me, the things that left the deepest scars, happened to me after I got clean and sober. I just didn't go run and get loaded over it. And one of the things that I think of from time to time is I have a sense of obligation to continue to work at a program of rigorous honesty for all of those people that helped me get clean and sober that have either passed along or didn't make it. And most of the people that I got clean and sober with died in addiction. And to not take advantage of the gift that the next 24 hours brings me would be disrespectful to their memory. And so those days, sometimes when maybe I don't feel worth the effort, I know that they are. And I know that those grandchildren of mine are. And I know that beautiful blonde sleeping upstairs, she is. And my children are. And so some days you need some cheerleaders to remind you that you can rise above this. And you look back at the pathology of your life and you say, hey, I've been here before. I know what to do to make it through this. I know that it won't always be this way. I'm not dealing with something that is terminally unique, right? My pain is not germane to me. Other people in life have gone through these things. And I just do the best I can to learn from it. Number one, though, one of my favorite songs of all time, and I'll be very, very honest with you here. I would say 2012, one of the most difficult years of my life. It was. It truly was. It's a very difficult year in my life, difficult year in my recovery. And something about Alter Bridge's Rise Today just resonated with me. And so every morning when I would get up and I would feel like, I don't know how I'm going to make it through today. It's like, oh, this again, right? And you get up and sometimes you just go into the motions. I would put this song on the first thing in the morning. I'd put it on YouTube and I'd play it on repeat until I started feeling better. And it worked. Music is a healer, right? And I'm a firm believer in garbage in, garbage out. I truly am. Like if all you do is listen to songs about depression, if you listen to songs about disillusionment, if you listen to songs about pain, I think you attract that. I think it becomes the principle of reflection, right? You begin to reflect the data that you're absorbing into your mind, body, and spirit. And so I began to jump aboard this song. And something about that pan guitar at the beginning, that intro, it just began to ignite a spark in me. And now when I listen to this song, it kind of takes me back a little bit to those dark moments, but it is a reminder that I made it through. I made it through sane, clean, sober, and better because of it. There have been some things that have happened in my life. When they happened, I thought, well, the world is ending. And then I thought to myself, well, life is still long, right? I still have life to live. Even if this doesn't work out the way that I hope it will, I've still got to find a way to navigate through this. And if I can get through this largely unscathed, I may pick up a scar along the way, but maybe perhaps it's not a mortal wound that stays with me the rest of my life. There are some things that will always be with me. And there are some things that if I let myself kind of go down the road, I can find plenty of reasons to feel sorry for myself. I just choose not to, right? And one of the things that helps me is music. Songs of empowerment, songs of perseverance. This is one of them for me. And I absolutely love this entire album. There's just something about Miles Kennedy's voice that does it for me. And I've had the chance to tell Miles that, and it's so incredibly special to me. I told him one day, I said, there's the little piece of God in all of us. And when you sing, the little piece of God in you speaks to the little piece of God in me. And that's really heavy stuff. And Slash was there too. And he was like, dude, that's really heavy. And it is. And Miles is like, that's why we do what we do. And the thing that I know is when Miles was writing this kind of stuff, he's dealing with his own pain. And so he's given me a roadmap, right? And then maybe your favorite artist does the same thing. There are people out there that are dealing with the same problems in life that we are. And they're basically sharing their pain with us, but also sharing the roadmap to get through it. And so I encourage you, listen to uplifting music, especially when you're down and depressed, because when you get down in the mire, it's easy to stay there. It truly, truly is. But if you want to get out of it, and I suspect you do, and for me, listening to songs like these allow me to understand where I've been and where I'm headed. And I encourage you to find some commonality and some common ground with me on that. And if you're feeling down and depressed today, put on Rise Today from Alter Bridge. Listen to it on repeat until you feel better, because that's what worked for me. If you have ideas for the top 10 list, reach out, let us know. Best way to do that is to hit up Roy Samanti, my friend, on X at Dogmatic67. That's DAWGMATIC 67. You can find our great list on Spotify on that same handle. And Roy's up to date. He spent the holiday break and the weekend getting us up to date. So you can find him. I've shared him on my socials, and of course, it's out there on his social. And so we encourage you, if you're a Spotify listener, jump aboard that. You'll be glad you did. And I love the fact when people hit me up, they say, Steve, I didn't know this band, and you kind of turned me on to them. I love them. And other times people say, Steve, I forgot about that song. I forgot about how good it was. Thanks for sharing. That means a lot to me. We talk some music here. We talk sports. We talk life. But I enjoy doing this segment. So many of you do. I got other people that say, hey, Steve, I just fast forward to the music thing. I'm not a music guy. That's fine too. But take what you need. Leave the rest. All right, next segment of the show brought to you by Campus Bookmart, a Starkvillian institution. We love Campus Bookmart. We do. We love them. Why do we love them? Because they have the things we want. Whether you need that new M over S hoodie, that fashionable quarter zip, you can find it at Campus Bookmart. We invite you to stop by and see them the next time you're in town. Very easy to get to. Just turn at the Trooper Station off 182 and just mosey on around like going to campus. Right there on the left will be Campus Bookmart, and you can stop in and peruse all their fine selections in maroon and white wares. You can wear it that day. Just wear it out at the store. Right on over to Dudy Noble Field or Humphrey Coliseum. You'd be glad you did. If you can't make it to town, or perhaps game day is a difficult shopping day for you, visit them on the World Wide Web, courtesy of Al Gore's Internet at campusbookmart.net. Use promo code BSR. That entitles you to free shipping on all orders over $75. Any order less than $75, absolutely incomplete. Let me also put in a plug for those fashionable diploma frames, a timeless gift for the Mississippi State graduate in your life. Campus Bookmart. All right, the Bulldog ladies traveled to Tuscaloosa. Came up short in this game. It was a very competitive game for a while, and then it got away from us in the fourth quarter. Bama's up just 1 point after one. They expand the lead to 4 points at the break, and then your Bulldogs come roaring back with an 8-point differential, a 29-21 third quarter. So the Bulldogs go to the fourth quarter with the lead, and then we just simply ran out of gas and had our worst defensive quarter of the night. We lose 85-78. They outscore us by 11 down the stretch. And one of those things, too, in the fourth, we felt like, okay, we'd be okay. But Alabama comes out and just gets to going right away. We trade baskets for a while, but right around the 7-minute mark, they take the lead. And we trade the lead back and forth, and with 6 minutes, we're up one and thinking, okay, maybe this is a big day for us. But a big three from Carly Weathers puts Alabama ahead. We tie it with a pair of free throws from Destiny McFall. And from there, it was pretty much all Alabama. They began to just kind of pull away. We were just somewhat powerless to stop it. We do pull it to within 4 points with 2.5 minutes to play. And then Weathers answers again with a three. to just pretty much put the thing away. And down the stretch, it was all Crimson Tide. We just simply did not have enough to stop them. So where does that leave us? Well, obviously not in a great place. Bulldogs dropped to 15-6 overall and 2-5 in the Southeastern Conference. Alabama advances their record to 18-3 and 4-3 in SEC play. Favor Nwadozie with 19.7 rebounds. We felt like rebounding would be an issue where we needed to compete, especially on the offensive end. Madison Francis pitches in 16 points and pulls down 8 boards. Treyana Crisp, 11 points, 3 rebounds. Destiny McFall, she was our close-to Blair player of the day, just 8 points for her and the 1 rebound. Got into some foul trouble. Did hand out 5 assists with no turnovers. Carissa Richardson with just 2 points. And then off the bench, Jalela Lampley with 14 to lead all bench scorers. State shoot 45%, but couldn't connect from beyond the arc. 4 of 16 in the game for just 25%. Pretty good at the free throw line, 18 of 21. But in the end, just too much Alabama down the stretch. They shot it pretty well themselves. Not a lot of second chance points for us, but we did out-rebound them by 4. They shoot 52% and then make 13 threes in the game. That proved to be the difference, and very good at the free throw line, which has become pretty much synonymous with the women's game. They shoot 83% in the ball game. So, where does that leave us? Well, Thursday night, and we'll talk about this on Wednesday's show, we will be in Knoxville, Tennessee to take on the number 17 Lady Vols, desperately needing a win. Ladies back at Humphrey Coliseum February the 1st against Missouri. But starting, first half of the schedule's nearly done, and we got 3 incredible opponents down the stretch, Texas, LSU, and South Carolina, but there are some winnable games. So, the chances of us finishing middle of the pack are starting to diminish a little bit, but we've got to win some of these games that are toss-up games for the Bulldogs. But that's where we stand today. It was not a good weekend of basketball. And again, that fourth quarter kind of proved to be our undoing. The men's game was pretty much over halfway through the first half. State will not have a home game again until on the men's side until Saturday when Arkansas comes to town. But Bulldogs in action Wednesday night. We'll preview this game on Wednesday's show at LSU. A game that we probably should be very competitive in. That's one of those things you look at and you just never seem to know. And there's just so many of our fans now that are just kind of out on basketball. I've read with great interest some people that said, hey, we need to make a change. I completely disagree with that. If anybody has earned a mulligan on this campus here as of late, it's been Chris Jans. 3 consecutive trips to the NCAA tournament. That does not appear to be a probability this year. But State just 1 game up on last place LSU and Oklahoma on the men's side. Oklahoma's lost 6 in a row. LSU's lost 2. Bulldogs have lost 5. LSU 13-7 on the season. But again, we're just 1 game up on them. South Carolina, we're tied with them down near the bottom. Ole Miss just a game better than us. And again, that's a game that haunts us, a game we feel like we should have won. Top of the league, obviously Texas A&M. Doing some great things with their press. They've won 3 straight, 16-4 overall, lead the SEC by a game over Arkansas, Florida, and Kentucky. And a lot of people left Kentucky left for dead at the end of non-conference play. They've won 5 straight. So, again, pretty good league this year. And Alabama, as good as they've been, they're 3-3 this year in conference play. So, we'll see how things go. But I can't give you any code of conduct here and sit here and tell you that everything is going to be all right this year. I think if we go back a couple of weeks and listen to that show, we talked about how this team had some fatal flaws. We are not good defensively. We do not have much scoring depth on this team. We struggle to get a consistent third scorer, and at times we just really struggle to rebound the basketball. This appears to be one of those seasons that is going to be more endured than enjoyed. And again, I go back beginning of the year, a lot of people said this should be Chris Jan's most talented team. That just hasn't proven to be the case. And I think that's where the rub is. I don't fault people for being optimistic about the season. I was too. I was hoping we would get to the tournament and have a chance to get out of the first weekend because we brought in, we thought, some complimentary scorers, but that has not worked out. We have got to evaluate at a higher level. There is clearly something wrong in our portal evaluation process. Clearly. And those chickens have come home to roost. It's one thing to have a Kanye Clary situation like last year and Andrew Taylor the year before, the kid from Marshall that came in that it didn't come together, and ultimately didn't finish the year with the team. You got multiple guys this year that are just simply not making any contribution to Mississippi State men's basketball, but we have made a major contribution to their bank account. So that's a topic that we'll revisit as we get into the offseason, but the reality of it is we're just not very good at men's basketball this year. It's not to say that Chris Jans has lost it. We just had some guys that haven't come through for us the way we'd hoped. Final segment of the show brought to you by the Stark Vegas Clubhouse, the best place to stay in the Golden Triangle, bar none, especially if we're bringing a larger group to town. You don't have to. You could rent the whole place out to yourself. It'd be a little bit lonely in there. It's a big place, 6 bedrooms, 2, soon-to-be 3 baths, plenty of parking, the full-service kitchen, the wet bar, the back porch area, the fire pit area. So much room to just kind of spread out and just enjoy being together. Like in days like this, after what we've gone through these last couple of days, you really prioritize friends and family. You need to plan an event yourself, whether you're coming in for maybe a basketball doubleheader, catch the men one night, the women the other. Maybe you've got a baseball weekend in mind. Check their availability. The Stark Vegas Clubhouse is open 365 days a year. Google the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. When you do, their Facebook page will auto-populate for you. You can peruse all the pictures of all the amenities available to you and your guest. Also, as part of that Google search, there'll be some booking options. You can book through Airbnb or VRBO, completely up to you. But if you want to save some money, book through the Evolve website. Promo code BSR10, BSR10 gets you 10% off your stay. You could pay more, but why, right? No point in it, right? And if it's free, it's me. So I live for the promo code, right? Matter of fact, I bought some Harvard gear earlier for me and the bride, and I went and found the promo code that worked for me just because of the fact I want to keep as much of my hard-earned money as I possibly can. It's got nothing to do with being cheap. It's about being frugal. So use that promo code through Evolve, save some money. You'll be so glad you stayed there. Just 5 minutes away from the Mississippi State campus. Plenty of quiet, peace. It's so great. You can smell those cinnamon rolls on the morning Mom's going to make them for you. That's so great. When we went, man, we had a great time. We were there for New Year's in 2025. My mom can't wait for us to do it again. Maybe we do it next year. It was a little more difficult this year with Ani and Betsy having the new baby. We just didn't want them to have to travel quite as far. Next year, we may make the kid earn it, right? Put in some miles and come see us and have a chance to spend some time with our friends and family here. So the Stark Vegas Clubhouse, be sure and check it out today. Okay, let's talk some baseball. Love talking college baseball with you guys. Love it, man. I do. And it's going to be here before you know it. Valentine's Day weekend. Go ahead, if you haven't done so, and go ahead and make that time off request. You can leave early on Friday and come be a part of everything as we usher in a brand new era of Diamond Dog baseball, the first game of the Brian O'Connor era. Reminder, they've closed all scrimmages. There's a little blurb out there, I guess, on social media through the Hell State official baseball account. You can see some practice stuff. We hate that we can't be there, but hey, that's the situation. That's how things work. So we cover Mississippi State on Mississippi State's terms. Looking back, though, at last year, about a week or so before, maybe 10 days before we open the season, the SEC coaches will vote and give you the predicted order of finish for 2026. Obviously, you're well aware Mississippi State, a consensus top 5 team, typically behind LSU and Texas. So I suspect we'll end up projected to be 3rd or 4th in the league. And, of course, 3rd and 4th in the league typically means that you're a top 8 national seed and you're hosting the first 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament provided you win. I share those expectations. But let's look back at last year. Maybe you've forgotten. Preseason number 1 team who was picked to win the Southeastern Conference. They had 10 of 16 first-place votes. The Texas A&M Aggies were projected. Of course, Jim Schlossnagle had left. Mike had taken over. You had Jace Lavulette projected to be the number one draft pick. He wasn't the number one draft pick. He was a first-rounder. But A&M, it didn't work out for them. A lot of people down the stretch, they shouldn't have gotten in. They were picked number one. And looking back at last year, just so you guys know, Texas A&M finished the year 11-19 in Southeastern Conference play and just 4 games over 500, 30-26 overall. So you never know what's going to happen. Now, granted, losing Grahovic early on didn't help. They had some injuries and didn't have a lot of depth. Number 2 last year, with 1 vote to win the league, was Tennessee. Now, obviously, Tony Vitello has moved on. Now the head coach for the San Francisco Giants took Frank with him. It's going to be a new-look volunteer team. Last year's Vol team wasn't great. They were good. They weren't great. They finished 16-14 in the league, 46-19 overall. But right around 500. I don't think anybody really projected that. I think most people thought they'd be a 20-win team within the league. They weren't. And again, they had some injuries too, but I think there was some chemistry type things within that team. They just didn't have the pitch they normally have. And number 3 last year, the team that got the second most first place votes was Arkansas. And the Arkansas curse is a real thing. They absolutely should have won that game against LSU. It would have eliminated LSU and ultimately changed the course of the College World Series. Arkansas finishes second in the league last year. They go 20-10, 50-15 overall. But, man, I can still see that agonizing look on Dave Van Horn's face when that sinking line drive goes off the back of his left fielder and into the corner, and LSU comes back to tie it. Pretty crazy. But they got Arkansas about right. LSU was picked 4th in the league last year, and they finished 3rd. 19-11 is their SEC record, 53-15. They win the national championship, close the year out on an 8-game winning streak. So the coaches pretty much got that one right. Arkansas and LSU, you look at and say, you know what, hey, that makes a little sense. Both of them picked in the top 4. Nobody knew that A&M would fall off the way they did. And, of course, Tennessee, we expected them to take a little bit of a step back, but maybe a greater step back than many of us thought. The coaches obviously were pretty high on Tony in that group. Number 5 last year in the projected order of finish, according to the SEC coaches, was Florida. Now, I'm not sure what's going to happen with Florida this year. They really struggled last year, got hot late, as you guys know. They finished the year 500 in the league, 15-15, 39-22 overall, tied with your Mississippi State Bulldogs at 15-15. And, of course, we had to battle from behind there. But Florida, pretty safe to say that they underachieved last year. I think that's fair to say. Basically, you say 10th, it's not 10th because you got so many teams tied ahead of you. But a 500 record for a team that was expected to host, a team that was expected to be really good on the pitching side, actually got 1 vote to win the league last year. They were really not close to doing that. Number 6 last year in the projections was Georgia. Coaches pretty much got this one right. They finished 5th in the league last year. Georgia goes 18-12, 43-17. But again, Georgia, just not a great postseason team. It's crazy. It's really weird to think about it. And they get to play so many postseason games at Foley where they should have an advantage. Just hasn't worked out for them. But Wes Johnson obviously has that program doing some very significant things. But again, until they get over the hump in postseason play, I think there are a lot of people that think they're going to be a great regular season team, but maybe they're just not managing things well when they get into postseason. Number 7 in your projected order of finish was Vanderbilt. Well, pretty much got that one right. Matter of fact, Vanderbilt probably overachieved from what many people expected, including yours truly. Vanderbilt finishes 4th in the SEC, tied for 3rd. 19-11 is the SEC record, 43-18, and then again, they get bounced in a regional and have not won a regional in the NIL era. And people say, well, we haven't either. Completely different dynamic, right? They obviously had some inherent advantages through need-based aid that we weren't taking advantage of. And again, I said then, after talking to some people around the league, they said Tim Corbin is totally against NIL. I said, well, if he is against it, we should probably be for it. And I think you've seen Vanderbilt come back to the pack. But good year last year for them. They fought hard down the stretch, but again, couldn't get over the hump. One of the big surprises last year, Texas picked middle of the pack, picked number 8. Well, Texas wins the league last year by 2 games, 22-8, 44-14 overall. And, of course, they come in here and sweep Mississippi State, 2 7-inning games on a Sunday. And Volantis just absolutely shoved against us. And Texas is a team that probably should have done more in the postseason last year. Just kind of came up short there. But, again, they win the SEC championship. They get the hardware. Bulldogs were picked 9th last year. Your Diamond Dogs picked 9th last year, and that's about where we finished when you start running through the tiebreakers here. Mississippi State 15-15. Of course, we had to get hot late to reach 500. We knew we'd make a regional. We did. Got sent to Florida State. I didn't think Florida State was that great. Of course, Jamie Arnold was great, but still think we had a chance to take that regional, and we didn't. We finished the season 36-23. We have got to be a 40-plus win team this year. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Look at this non-conference schedule. It's certainly attainable. Kentucky was picked 10th in the league last year, and it's pretty much on point. Nick probably overachieved just a little. And I think not enough people are talking about the job Nick Mingione did last year. I mean, you lose 8 position players and much of your weekend rotation, and you still make the NCAA tournament. They finished with a 13-17 record, so they didn't get to 500. And obviously Mississippi State had a great weekend against them. They finished 31-26, but Nick is kind of the RPI guru. Like, Nick will go play some weird series. Go into Elon. You know you're going to sweep up there, but that's a road series against a team that's traditionally a top 100 RPI. So you get the benefit of the bonus points of playing them on the road. So Nick knows how to make the schedule work for himself. But, wasn't a great year. Obviously, they went to Omaha in 24. But, again, I think a great coaching job by Minge. Oklahoma was picked 11th. Pretty much dead solid perfect there. Oklahoma finishes just a game behind Mississippi State and a game ahead of Kentucky. So they finished 11th. 14-16 the overall record, and again, State should have taken that series in Norman. We absolutely blew that series, as you guys know. 38-22 overall, and again, a team that didn't do much in the postseason. We kind of felt like, once you get through Friday night with them, it's just not behind them. Another surprise last year, I don't know if I would say it was a surprise to me, because I expected Auburn to be my sleeper last year. The Tigers were picked 12th in the Southeastern Conference by the coaches. Well, they ended up finishing 6th in the league and were a top 8 national seed. 17-13 in the league, 41-20 overall. Couldn't get it done in postseason play. I really thought they would have an opportunity to get to a super regional and potentially advance on to Omaha. Pitching was a little bit up and down. They've got a young nucleus of players that'll be back, and I think Auburn is worthy of kind of where they'll be picked in the top half of the league, and I think that's fair. Alabama was picked 13th last year. Now, they got hot early, right? People were all excited about them. They actually finished 9th after the tiebreakers, but right there with Ole Miss and Tennessee at 16-14, just a game ahead of Mississippi State and Florida. And, of course, State takes that series from Alabama. They end up with a 3-game losing streak to close out the year. 41-18 is the overall record. I think Alabama is pretty much what they have been. I know everybody gets so juiced up when they run through non-conference play, and this is the year Alabama makes their return. I just don't think Alabama really cares about baseball. Rob Vaughn's a great coach, and I think Rob Vaughn, should the A&M job come open, I think Rob Vaughn is the absolute favorite to get that job. I think he would do a great job there. A&M is a program that cares about baseball, and so as a result, I think Mike probably gets canned this year, and they bring Rob Vaughn in. Rob really wants the job. Grew up in Aggie. South Carolina was picked 14th in the league last year in the preseason. Maybe you remember, maybe you don't. It was a forgettable season. They finished 15th. Pretty close there, right? 6-24 in the league, 28-29 overall. Just one of two teams that finished the year with an overall losing record in the Southeastern Conference, and they close out losing 3. Pulmonary, from what I've heard, will probably have a similar season this year. Maybe they'll be a little bit better. I mean, how could you be worse than 6-24? But I think Pulmonary, this is probably his last year coaching baseball. Whether they fire him or just negotiate a settlement, allow him to retire because he's been such a statesman for the league over the years, maybe that proves to be the case. But they were picked 14th. A team that overachieved a little bit last year, Ole Miss. They were picked 15th in the league. Yeah, they did. 15th in the league, and they finished with a winning record in conference, 16-14. Ended up being a host team, 43-21 overall, and of course they don't advance. But give Mike Bianco a little credit last year, and I'm curious to see what happens this year with Bianco. What's this Ole Miss team look like? They do have some pieces back. They got Hunter Elliott back. It's crazy to think that he's still there, but he is. And then he recently received a medical hardship year. You got to go this year if you're Hunter. Age has got to be a factor. Dead solid perfect pick at the end. 16 is Missouri, who won 3 games. And, of course, they had several guys transfer out at the end of the year, and then they lose a couple of arms to injury basically before it starts. I remember talking to Mark Etheridge beginning of the year. He's like, Steve, they won't win 6 games in conference. They didn't. And, of course, Mississippi State goes up there to Columbia, Missouri, and has the greatest offensive weekend in the history of the program. Goes to show you, Missouri also was trying to save some arms to win the SEC tournament, so we didn't see Sam Horn and those guys. But Hunter Hines obviously surpasses Rafael Palmeiro during that weekend. But, again, I thought you'd maybe enjoy kind of a look back at what that proved to be for SEC baseball last year. So, again, it's not a hard and fast rule because nobody knows for sure how this thing is going to work out. Just not how, everybody just kind of makes a list. And anybody can make a list, and you feel like the coaches should probably have a pretty good handle on this thing, because they know who's got what in the portal. But nobody expected Texas to win the thing, and they did. They picked middle of the league. And everybody thought Texas A&M would, and they ended up finishing 13th in the league. So there's a reason we play the games. And I go back and kind of think about last year's postseason. And let's look at the SEC tournament bracket. You go back and you look at this thing. Obviously, there were some surprises here. But you start the whole thing. Alabama was the 9 seed against Missouri. They win that game 4-1. Missouri had their chances. Oklahoma beats Kentucky 5-1. Florida drills South Carolina 11-3. And then we lose 9-0 A&M. You move forward there, Auburn loses to A&M, and that's one of the reasons a lot of people say A&M won like a couple of games late. We should give them the benefit of the doubt. No, we shouldn't. One weekend is not erase an entire bad season unless you win the tournament, right? But A&M beat Auburn 3-2, and then Ole Miss beats Florida 3-1. Oklahoma beats Georgia 3-2, and then Tennessee beats Alabama. Then things get a little more interesting. Tennessee beats top seed Texas 7-5. Vandy beats Oklahoma. Ole Miss beats Arkansas, which was a little bit of a surprise too. And then LSU knocks off A&M. Ole Miss beats OSU. Vanderbilt shuts out Tennessee 10-0. Then it's Vanderbilt and Ole Miss in the SEC title game, and Vanderbilt wins. And so, interesting tournament, right? I mean, just kind of how things, worked out last year. But, looking at the bracket itself for the NCAA tournament, you go back and you think about, how many teams make the tournament from the Southeastern Conference. And that should always be the case, right? We should always, because baseball is a big part of our program heritage down here in the South. That's one of the reasons the ACC is what they are. There's a reason we don't play ice hockey down here. But you go back and look, Alabama gets sent to the Hattiesburg Regional. They don't advance. And I really thought Alabama had a chance to make some noise down there. They didn't. We get sent to Florida State. Doesn't work out well for us. Oklahoma goes to the Chapel Hill Regional. Nothing, right? Florida got hot late and then lose to Coastal Carolina, who ended up being the national finalist, the runner-up in the tournament. Auburn, of course, wins their regional and then loses to Coastal. On the other side of the bracket last year, Texas didn't get out of the Austin Regional. It was the Roadrunners of Texas San Antonio. Kind of crazy when you go back and look at that, right? Ole Miss didn't get out of the Oxford Regional. Why? Because the Murray State Racers did. And Murray State, of course, advanced to Omaha. How cool was that? It was a great story. Georgia doesn't get out of their own regional, and that was a loaded regional, too. Binghamton was not important. But Oklahoma State and Duke, those are baseball schools. That was a packed regional. LSU, of course, wins their regional and then knocks off West Virginia, who upset, kind of an upset winner, in the Clemson regional. And I don't know what's happened to Clemson baseball. Tennessee, of course, advances and loses to Arkansas in a super. But, again, you go back and you think, we should dominate this tournament. We should always be in the tournament field. Mississippi State, in a bad year, should be a road regional. But we've got to get back to hosting regularly. Again, we haven't hosted since 2021. I expect that to happen this year, barring something totally unforeseen. But, again, anybody can make a list, and there's a reason we go out and play all these games. And so, again, I thought today we'd take a little bit of a look back and just to kind of see, for the most part, the coaches did pretty well. But there were some outliers, obviously. Ole Miss overachieves, Texas overachieves, A&M and Tennessee both underachieve, A&M much greater than Tennessee. And Arkansas just kind of steady Eddie. I mean, I just think it's a matter of time before Arkansas wins one. But I begin to wonder, too, how much longer is Dave Van Horn going to chase this thing? One of the best coaches in college baseball. A guy that's been great to me every time I've talked to him, but he is a very very rugged competitor. And I'd like to see them win one. I would, just because I think it's good for the game. They're so committed to the game. It's kind of like us winning one, but we had to win one before them. They had their chances, obviously, and blew it against Oregon State. We talked about floating earlier on. I encourage you to come float. Deal with the aches and pains in life, whether they be mental, emotional, spiritual, or physical. If you've got those issues, we may be able to help you. We've helped many others. It's helped me tremendously. I do my best to float at least once a week. And Dana, I guess, has floated maybe 200 times now. Yeah, and she had chronic back pain for a while. It's just gone. She had insomnia for a long time. It's gone. And a lot of that, too, came from, working night nursing. And so give yourself a break today. Come float. Dial 662-268-7601. And please follow us on social media, True Rest Float Spa of Starkville. If you haven't done so, go to DutyNobleBook.com. You can get all my sports titles signed and personalized if you need them. You got Flim Flam, Stark Villains, Alpha Dogs, Dogpile, The Dude, and, of course, the personal memoir, When the Bottom Falls. You can find that there. And come join us over at genespage.com. Running a 50% off special. I think that ends today. But if you got any issues, let me know. But listen, got your show up early today. Many of you can listen to half of it on the way to work and half on the way home. That's what a break in the schedule often does. But happy to get this done and out of the way. And out of the way sounds wrong. I don't mean it that way. But happy to get it up for you, especially for you guys that may be out of work today and you're sitting around trying to find some entertainment. So I got up and I thought, you know what? I kind of owe it to these folks that maybe kind of need something to entertain themselves today. But until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies and people can see a difference in the way we live.